Thanks for joining, everybody. We'll just give everyone a couple of minutes before we get started. Thanks for your patience, everybody. If you're just joining, I'm just letting you know that we're just giving everyone a couple of minutes to join before we get started here. All right, it looks like we are pretty close to the number of attendees that we can expect here. So Kuka, I would love to pass this over to you to kick us off.
Great, thank you, Jenny, and good day, everybody. Good morning or good afternoon, depending on what time zone you're in. My name is Michael Kuka, and I'm an engineer with the program with OSED that we'll be getting into in just a moment. Just want to welcome you and thanks for joining us. We're excited about the prize and we're happy to have you here, and we'll jump right into it. So if we could go ahead and move forward. Just a couple of quick introductory things. We are recording the webinar, and we're doing that and saving information. It'll be posted such that people that weren't able to attend will be able to listen, and there will be a time for Q&A sessions at the end, and we'll be working with the chat as well. And then if you have any experience with any issues, check the tabs on audio, or you may be able to use the chat and ask for assistance there. The agenda, you see right here on the slide. Myself, I'm an engineer with OSED, and Jill, also with OSED, my colleague, will be introducing the program, and then we'll be speaking with Jenny and Amanda on the prize and what the prize means, and then also we'll talk about the different tracks of the prize, and later Jenny and Jason will go in there and help us understand different tracks of the prize. And then again at the end, we'll talk about the next step, we'll talk about the schedule of the prize, some key dates to look for, and then have a Q&A session. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, as an introduction, many of you were with us in our workshop earlier on the prize, and so some of this is a repeat, but for those of you that are just joining us, within DOE, we have the Office of Clean Energy Demonstration. That's where I'm an employee. Our mission is to deliver energy demonstration projects at scale in partnership with the private sector to accelerate deployment, market adoption, and the equitable transition to decarbonize energy system. And so that's our office. We were recently created. We're only about a year old, and we have a lot of other initiatives. And if you're interested in looking at some of that, please feel free to join us on the website, the OSED website at DOE. And then also, more specifically, the program that is sponsoring the prize is Energy Improvement in Rural or Remote Areas. And that phrase is actually, it's a provision from the bipartisan infrastructure law. And so that's the name of our office. It's provision within the BIL. And our goal is to provide financial assistance to improve in rural remote areas of the United States, resilience, safety, reliability, and the availability of energy and environmental protection from adverse impacts of energy generation. It's a bit of a mouthful there, but at the end of the day, the title says it all, that we're looking to improve energy projects or energy infrastructure in rural and remote areas. And then one thing that we really learned, we started this program by going on a bit of a roadshow and doing some workshops and meeting with constituents of rural and remote areas across the nation. And one of the things that was shared with us is that we may really benefit communities by offering some pathways for partnership and securing financing in these energy projects. And so that's what we'll be talking about today. That's the two major focus points of the prize that we'll be talking about today, and we'll get into that a little bit more detail. We'll go to the next slide. My colleague Jill is with us. Jill, would you like to join us and speak a little bit about the Justice 40 initiative and how it's part of our OSED mission? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much, Michael. Happy to be here today to talk about Justice 40 initiative. So as we saw in the previous slide, OSED's mission is centered on accelerating an equitable energy transition. So this commitment to equity and justice extends from our office all the way up to the White House, which launched the Justice 40 initiative in January of 2021. So every program in the Office of Clean Energy Demonstrations, including this Energy Improvements in Rural and Remote Areas program, is covered by the Justice 40 initiative. And this initiative directs 40% of the overall benefits of certain federal investments to flow to disadvantaged communities. So I'll break that down a little bit further here. On the left column, you can see the types of federal investments that are covered by the Justice 40 initiative. And this includes investments in clean energy, energy efficiency, and workforce development. And then within DOE, we're focusing on 8 priority policy areas, which we can think about as the benefits that some of the benefits that we want to focus on. And I won't read all of the ones listed here, but just want to highlight that this includes decreasing energy burden, increasing clean energy access, and increasing energy resiliency in disadvantaged communities. And disadvantaged communities are identified using the 2 tools linked on the right here. These tools look at different factors, including energy burden, poverty levels, employment, and health outcomes to identify communities that are overburdened and underserved. And this initiative is just one of the priority areas for Office of Clean Energy Demonstrations. We're also focused on supporting quality jobs, diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility, and community engagement. And all of that is informing not only this program, but also this prize specifically. Thanks.
Great, thank you, Jill. Thanks for that. And a little bit more on on the program itself. So if you recall, the name of our provision that we were authorized under by Congress is called Energy Improvements in Rural or Remote Areas. And what Congress did is they went further in that provision and said the definition of rural remote areas. And what that was is a population of 10,000 or less. And we'll get more into the specific definition down below here. So the identified area that must be 10,000 or less inhabitants is a city, town, or unincorporated area or other incorporated municipality. I'm sorry, I misspoke there. Let me repeat that. It's a city, town, or other incorporated municipality or a census designated place or similarly discrete and identifiable community that is not incorporated. The population you can help determine by an individual zip code or a name of a city or a town or the name of that incorporated municipality or the census designated place. We get a lot of questions on this, so please feel free to jot down any questions and we'll address them at the end with the Q&A. But the takeaway points are here is that for the purposes of our provision and for the purposes of this program, we're scheduled to have energy projects that benefit populations of 10,000 or less. And then the second paragraph there gives a lot of different types, how you may define a boundary for that population. It's pretty important for our eligibility criteria, and we'll move to the next slide and give a couple of Q&As that we've gotten for examples. One, for example, is the first one on the left. If the project is meant to benefit a city or town or unincorporated area with a population of 10,000 or less, but the county is larger than that, are we eligible? The answer to this particular question is yes, because the area identified is as you see, I won't read it again, but A or B, and it has less than 10,000 inhabitants. Another question that we've gotten frequently is, what if we have multiple rural communities that partner together? And then the answer there is that the population requirement is based on individual inhabited areas, and that could be A or B on the left. In this case, we say city, towns, incorporated municipalities, census designated places. So if one of the group was less than 10,000, then you would meet a metric of providing benefit to a rural or remote area. And then a very similar question is down below, and that is what I alluded to just then, is if you have many communities and some of them are over and some of them are under, the requirement for eligibility of this program is that the project benefit a community of 10,000 or less. And so you have to meet that threshold. And then if there's extra benefits on top of that, then no problem. And so I know that there's a lot of questions often on that, and we'll just leave it with what the slide says there and then be available to fill in any Q&A at the end. We'll go to the next slide. All right. And so at this time, I'm going to be handing it off to Amanda. And Amanda, if you want to take it away, thank you. And I look forward to speaking with you all at the Q&A session at the end. Bye.
Thank you. All right. So what is the Energizing Rural Communities Prize? This is going to be a $15 million prize. It's challenging individuals and organizations to develop partnership plans or innovative financing strategies to help those rural and remote communities that we've been talking about improve their energy systems and advance clean energy demonstration projects. There are 2 tracks, partner and finance, and there are 2 phases, phase 1 and phase 2. The goal is that we will award up to $15 million in cash prizes to 90 winners in phase 1 and an additional, sorry, cut off here. I believe it's an additional in-kind assistance, sorry about that. We'll select up to 90 winners in phase 1, 60 of those in partner and 30 in finance. Next slide, please. Our prize goals are to demonstrate innovative and replicable partnership and finance mechanisms that act as initial steps towards clean energy projects. Better prepare rural or remote communities to secure funding for clean energy projects, either through future ERA funding opportunities or other public or private funding sources. Identify, understand, and further develop activities that prepare communities to complete clean energy projects, and build trust and strengthen the network between and within rural and remote communities in support of energy improvements aligned with DOE's Justice 40 priorities. Next slide, please. Potential competitors for this prize can fall into any of these categories: non-federal, government entities, Native American tribes, community-based organizations such as CBOs, community-based funding organizations like green banks, nonprofits, for-profits, academic institutions, student groups, and individuals such as entrepreneurs. Next slide. So right now, you can apply. We are open to submissions. However, phase 1 closes May 24th. So you'll want to get your submission in before that. Once those submissions are in, submissions will be reviewed and the winners will be announced in July. And then we'll move into phase 2, which will award up to $200,000 per winning submission. And phase 2 is only open to winners of phase 1. Next slide, please. All right, and how do you apply? Where do you go? HeroX. So go to the herox.com website and you can search or use the URL on the page. We will share these slides, so these will be clickable later. You'll want to sign in, create a HeroX account, choose Solve This Challenge, which will show up on the Rural and Remote Communities Prize page. You'll have to agree to the terms of use, confirm your email, accept the challenge-specific agreement, indicate whether you're competing as part of a team, and submit all of your materials by May 24th at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we wanted to point out that when you are submitting, you can submit multiple applications into both the partner and finance track, but we will only accept and review one submission per track per community served. All right, next slide, please. I'm going to pass to my colleague, Jenny.
Thanks, Amanda. All right, now I'd just like to talk a little bit about some of the support that's going to be available to all of the competitors in this first phase here. So some of the specific things initially, just so you have an idea, are related to the community development. So the organizations that are listed here on the right are going to support developing our network through both one-on-one outreach and reaching out through their network, along with us doing some outreach on our network as well. They'll also be setting up virtual networking events for us that'll incorporate team building as a primary component of this, since partnerships with some of those communities and with other organizations are really central to the primary goals of this prize. And then providing some office hour support to offer that dedicated time for competitors to receive feedback on their applications as they're in development here. And I do want to call out that feedback process is just intended to give you some idea as to whether or not you are hitting the mark in terms of pulling together an application, and if it is on target for what it is that we've outlined in the specific criteria outlined in the rules document. I do have at least 2 of the power connectors here today, so I wanted to offer them the opportunity to introduce themselves so you can all hear from them as a member of our team who are providing that feedback. So I'll first start, I'll just go in the order that is listed on the slide here. Lynn, if you could do a quick introduction for CEBN.
Hi, everybody. I'm Lynn Abramson. I'm president of the Clean Energy Business Network, which serves as the small business voice for the clean energy economy. And we're thrilled to be one of the power connectors supporting this prize. We have been serving as a power connector with the Department of Energy's American Made Challenges program since November 2020 and have worked on a variety of prizes. And if you are already on our email list, you will be hearing from us. We'll be sending you reminders about the prize, links to useful resources. My colleague will actually put in the chat right now, Ali Judge will put in the chat right now some links to some of those resources. But our primary mechanism of engagement will be in offering office hours for you to help provide feedback on the prizes, as well as answer any questions you may have. And we also have a variety of other resources and tools that our network offers. So we will be sharing information about those with you. And as applicable, if we know of partners that we can introduce you to, we're happy to do that as well. So please use our Calendly link. We have a variety of team members who will be on call to offer those office hours with you. We can discuss your project, give you some of that feedback, and also take a look at your application if you'd like. So you can go ahead and start booking those as soon as you would like. And we look forward to working with all of you.
Great, thanks so much, Lynn. And then I believe that Kathy is on the line now. So Kathy, if you'd like to do an introduction as well for New Mexico State.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm Kathy Foster at New Mexico State University. I was a little late signing in because I was traveling from Albuquerque to one of our rural communities and had a flat tire, but I'm happy to be here. Excuse the tardiness. But Arrowhead Center is the tech transfer, commercialization, and economic development arm for the university. But since we're the land grant institution, we can reach out to all the counties in New Mexico. We provide services across the state. So we're really looking forward to partnering and providing outreach and mentorship in applications. We will be having in-person meetings with several of our rural communities within the state of New Mexico to see what their needs are, to really get a gap analysis going. So we can help you with your application if you can really benefit some rural communities here in New Mexico, but we'll also be working with some partners in Alaska. I saw a question about Alaska come through as well. So feel free to reach out. We will be posting our community events as well as 2 webinars we have planned. One that will be a specific workshop on kind of best practices for applications. So feel free to reach out and ask us questions. We're really looking forward to working with you all on this project. Thanks, everyone.
Great, thanks so much, Kathy. And then I will hand it over to you, Tom.
Thanks, Jenny. Hi, I'm Tom Jensen. I'm the president of EFN. So EFN is a 20-year-old nonprofit that operates across the country. We have programs on the East Coast, in the Midwest, in the South, Washington, Oregon. We're based in California, but have people and offices in Detroit and Washington, D.C. So let me tell you a little bit more about EFN. So EFN has been working primarily in clean energy innovation, but other complementary areas of innovation since we were founded. We have experience in rural and remote areas and projects at, for example, farms in California, farms in other states, dairies, wineries, small towns, rural electric cooperatives, and small utilities that operate in rural areas. We've worked on financing strategies. We've worked on partnership strategies, climate plans, resiliency plans, microgrids, grid hardening. So we're very, very excited to offer 2 webinars, and I'll post the webinar links in the chat, one March 30th and then one April 13th. And our webinars will focus on helping people get feedback on their ideas. We're going to have small groups that will be facilitated and moderated where people can meet each other. Maybe you'll meet a partner for this prize, or maybe you'll meet someone who could be an expert for you. Our experience is very strong in financing and helping people find funding. We're the co-creator and lead manager on the Empower Innovation Network. It's empowerinnovation.net. It's a free online community with funding from the state of California that has 3,500 members at over 1,000 organizations, utilities, community groups, school districts, etc. And we have members in over 40 states. So we help our members for free find funding, financing, and partners. And that will be one of the things that we'll be helping people do, particularly in office hours, is not only to help them give them feedback on their ideas and concepts and strategies and plans, but also, potentially referrals to partners. So we look forward to working with all of you, and And I think it's just a great prize. We're very excited about it. Thank you, Jenny.
Great, thanks so much, Tom. Very happy to have all three of you providing support for the teams, and all of the resources that the Power Connectors have mentioned here will be available on the HeroX platform, and you'll be able to access the links in the slides that we'll share after this webinar then as well. So thank you all for joining today and taking the time to introduce yourselves, and to the teams, please leverage the capabilities here. They have worked on many prizes with us and are very interested in providing you support as well. So thanks all. All right, then to shift the topic here over to what it is that we're asking you to submit for this first phase. So in phase one, for both the partner and the finance track, we're looking for some high-level information on a cover page and a summary slide. And this it should just be some basic information about your team, a high-level description of the project that you're proposing, and any background information related to the primary beneficiary who is your project is going to service. Then we will ask for a 3-minute video pitch on both the partner and the finance track, which should summarize the project itself and really focus on the storytelling aspects of that. And there are specific evaluation criteria associated with the videos for both partner and finance, and we'll talk about that in depth on each of the in-depth webinars that where you'll be able to ask questions specific to the track. Then for both of the tracks then as well, we're looking for a partnership plan and a project plan specifically identified under each of these. And this is the primary component of your submission. This should summarize in fewer than 5,000 words what it is that you're proposing within your community, who your project is intended to serve, and why you're looking to pull this together. And it should really be the bones of what it is that that you're submitting here. So please dedicate the most of your time, and that's where most of the evaluation criteria are noted as well. And then in support of both the partner track and the finance track, we're also asking for an additional submission related to your evidence of commitment in the partner track and a financial statement to identify your financial mechanism under the finance track. We'll talk about those in a little bit more detail in a minute. I did want to go through the reviewing and the scoring process, though, for reference. So you're all aware of how this is processed. A panel of 3 to 5 reviewers are going to review every application that comes in. And these will be made up of subject matter experts that are from the Department of Energy, national labs that are participating in this, and that'll be all of the labs that are a part of the consortium. Academic representatives, and then other private industry representatives who have expertise in this area as well. And they'll provide feedback and a quantitative score on each of the submissions that come in. The rules document provides details on all of the scoring statements. So that is your primary document that you should review to make sure that you understand what it is that you'll be scored against. And then each of the reviewers will use a 6-point scale to evaluate each of the statements. And I'll talk about that on the next slide here. But the scores from the reviewers will all be summed and averaged so that we have a base score to analyze this against. And the preliminary scores will serve as kind of that preliminary ranking. We'll convene internally here to review those preliminary scores, discuss and then agree upon the final scores and our recommendations to the DOE leadership that serves as the final judge. And then that recommendation will serve as that basis for that discussion to then determine the winners for you all, just so you're all aware of what this process looks like internally here. And then, as I mentioned, each of the scoring statements are scored on a 1 to 6 scale that you'll see here. So every criterion has individual scoring statements and suggested content that the competitor provides. And this is all outlined in the templates that you can reference to. So the suggested content is not required, but it is just ideas for how you might be able to address those scoring statements. The scoring statements are really the primary element that you should be reviewing now. And that 1 to 6 scale is outlined here and also in the rules document, which is how much the reviewer agrees with how well the competitor addressed each individual statement here. And with that, I will pass it over to Jenny Irwin, who will talk a little bit more in depth about the partner track.
Thanks, Jenny. So as Jenny mentioned, we have 2 tracks. I'll talk about the partner track and then Jason will come on to talk about the finance track. So the purpose of the partner track is very broad, right? What we're trying to do here is facilitate new or existing partnerships that enable the development of clean energy projects in rural and remote communities. And we're really looking for a broad array of things here, right? There's, as long as it's a clean energy project and as long as it's located or as long as it benefits a rural and remote community, that's the type of partnerships that we want to see come through. So some ideas for potential outcomes, because maybe that'll help folks try to figure out, well, is what I'm thinking about potentially relevant for the partnership track? So if you're looking to pull together a group of organizations to ultimately achieve some permitting for a project you envision, or preliminary engineering studies, those are the types of outcomes that we would be looking for in the finance track. So anything ranging from resource assessment, which is obviously earlier on in the process, to things like permitting or engineering studies later on in the process of actually deploying a clean energy project. Another example could be a utility offtake agreement. Any of these things obviously require hiring and building a team. So we recognize that that's a really important part of the process. Maybe organizations are much earlier in the process of trying to identify what a clean energy demonstration project looks like for their community. So maybe it's a co-signed memorandum of understanding amongst organizations, or perhaps a new organization needs to be created in order to enable a community's goals. Just a couple of ideas. Again, I think maybe the ideas can help folks understand, does my idea, is it well suited for a partner track? So for instance, let's say a community group wants to get a community solar installation up and running. And what they propose is identifying a co-development partner, somebody with actual solar development experience and working through local permitting requirements. Alternatively, we could imagine a rural electric co-op working with farmers to get a community methane digester system installed, or perhaps an EV charging network for a rural community. And another idea, just an example, maybe a land grant university could work with a state livestock or crop association and a renewable developer to explore supplementing farm revenues with a solar installation, right? So all of these things require partnerships amongst multiple organizations, and we recognize that there's real work that's involved there. Let's go to the next slide. So Jenny was walking through the scoring, how the scoring works in the partner track and the finance track. There are 5 different criteria. So the criteria, the first criteria, and there's multiple scoring statements under each of these sections. But the first criteria really wants to understand your relevant experience. So what experience are you bringing to the table in terms of whether it's clean energy project development, whether it's experience working with rural and remote communities, whether it's a mixture of all of these things, what is your past experience? Criterion 2 really asks about, what are you proposing to do? What's your proposed partnership? And criterion 3 wants to know, what is this partnership going to achieve? Criterion 4 is the how, right? How are you going to do this? What budget, staff, and other resources is going to be required to bring your idea to fruition? And criterion 5 really asks about longer term. So after the prize is completed, after the phase is over, how does this work really tie into a longer term strategy for achieving the community's energy goals? All right, Jason, over to you on the finance track.
Thanks, Jenny. Hi, everybody. Let me add my welcome to the webinar. I'm Jason Coughlin with the National Renewable Energy Laboratory. And as you've heard so far in this webinar, in addition to the partner track, we also have a finance track. And I think the underlying goal is this concept of connecting communities, rural and remote communities, to affordable capital and improving access to capital for clean energy projects in rural and remote communities. And what we're trying to do here is cast a wide net. We have some expectations about the types of applicants and the types of projects that we're going to kind of see in this track, but also we're excited to see what the communities writ large come back with. And similar to what Jenny had mentioned, just to seed some ideas and some thought processes in terms of, you know, the types of organizations that we can envision applying for the prize under the finance track. Again, these could be local credit unions, community-based organizations, could be CDFIs that aren't currently in the clean energy and energy efficiency space that might want to get into that space. Small businesses and entrepreneurs with a particular product or project in a particular community. Maybe it's green banks that currently operate in more urban environments, and it's an opportunity to develop a plan to expand their reach into smaller communities. Rural electric co-ops, rural utilities. We could envision community solar-based projects from both of those entities. We expect folks to be real creative in tapping into the IRA tax credits that are available for a variety of rural and remote communities, energy communities, low-income communities. So we're excited to see what is put forth as it relates to monetizing tax credits. You know, local and regional governments may have a plan to attract clean energy development in their community. This would include tribal governments. And many other types of organizations that we haven't even thought of, universities partnering with rural and remote communities with some sort of microcredit based lending opportunity. And so I think it's important to be clear that the prize money for phase one is really to develop the plan. We don't envision that folks would see the prize money as loan capital. But what we really expect and hope is that you're able to develop a concept and a project that you can then leverage into phase two funding from DOE. I think the EPA's National Green Bank opportunity is exciting to leverage into additional capital. USDA has been given additional funding for projects in rural and remote communities. So we envision this phase one as kind of developing the plan, and then you can take that plan and look to attract public and private capital, foundational, philanthropic capital, et cetera. So be creative, and we look forward to the proposals that come in. Next slide, please. And not to spend too much time on this slide, similar to the partner track, we do have 5 scoring criteria, and really they're identical to the partnership track. And so again, 5 criteria. We want to know your relevant experience. And again, that could be in rural and remote communities, but it may also be in the area of clean energy lending, but not without any experience in rural and remote communities, and how you're going to bridge those gaps, who you're going to partner with, expected outcomes, how you're going to staff the effort. And similar to what my colleague Jenny had mentioned, how do you envision taking the prize one monies and leveraging that into not only prize two funding, but also thinking much broader than that, and really growing a vibrant enterprise in one or more rural and remote communities. So with that, I will turn it over to my colleagues and look forward to the project submissions. Thank you.
All right, so wanted to call out some upcoming webinars that we have. There is a partner-specific track webinar that is April 5th from 2 to 3 Mountain Time, 4 to 5 Eastern Time. There will also be a finance deep dive on April 6th from 11 a.m. Mountain Time to noon, and that is 1 to 2 Eastern Time. We also have office hour support coming up. There's 30-minute meetings where you can ask questions and get feedback on your application with CEBN, as well as EFN. There will also be networking events coming up March 30th at 10 a.m. Mountain Time and April 13th at 9 a.m. Mountain Time. Next slide, please. All right, next steps. So start with recruiting team members, community partners, local organizations. Register your team on HeroX. Be sure to read the rules and plan your participation. Connect with our power connectors. Again, they are here to help support you, and design your plans and submit your materials by May 24th. And next slide, I believe we're going to move into questions and our Q&A, but we wanted to make sure that you also have these contacts handy. Email ruralenergyprize@nrel.gov, American Made Challenges website, which is americanmadechallenges.org/challenges/rural-energy, as well as our HeroX website. That is herox.com/rural-energy. That's where you can find the forum, the rules, the button to submit, the templates, and our FAQ and forum. So I think now we're going to move into our Q&A. So if you haven't already asked your question in our Q&A, please type it in there and we will answer as many as possible. Thank you.
Thanks, Amanda, and thanks team, everybody, for that great presentation. What we're going to do now is we're going to get into a Q&A session. And if you are able to see your Q&A on screen, there's a little pop-up window there. Feel free to ask any questions and we will go through. If you have asked a question and we had a quick answer that we typed out, then it's in the answered column. And then also there's several attendees with your hands up. Go ahead and just type your question in the Q&A and we'll try and address them there. We're going to talk through a few of these pretty quick. I think some great questions that we're seeing in the chat. And if the typing didn't get to your question, then go ahead and type again and we'll try and get into it. So I'm going to start on the earliest question that wasn't answered yet. When you use the term community, do you mean municipality, other local units of government? Can independent entrepreneur develop a project? Okay, so there's kind of two questions here. Let's unpack that. We do probably casually use the word community, but whenever we are talking very specifically about eligibility, we're talking about a rural or remote area as defined by Congress and our provision, which is the first early slides that talked about 10,000 or less and how to determine your boundaries. So that means a project must benefit a rural or remote area, population of 10,000 or less. It does not mean that the developer or the project manager, however you want to phrase, and for that is related to that question, must be that community. We have a very strong emphasis in partnership with communities and showing that there's a benefit for the community. But we recognize that a lot of communities like to contract out work as well. And if that's the case, then that's great. So as long as the benefit is there for the community and that they are a partner and actively involved in it, they don't have to be the developer. So I hope that helps. And if not, just go ahead and type another one here. Moving on, we have a few eligibility questions here, and really when we get your applications, we have a lot of detail that we look at. We look at different parts of the application, and we can't just give you an eligibility question on a quick little blurb here. But this one that says our company is close to, let's just say, an area of 10,000 or less. And I think they're saying, do we qualify? And I think I addressed that earlier, that if the company was partnering with an area, then that would be fine, as long as there's evidence that the community that's receiving benefit is a partner in that process. They don't have to be the developer. There's a SAM question here. We don't use SAM. The prize is not cooperative agreement or a grant that you may be familiar with other DOE funding. So SAM's not part of this. It says that you're having trouble with it. There's you may laugh when I say this, but there's a help email on SAM that you may benefit from, and asking for that. There also may be some assistance on Exchange, and some of the Exchange is a DOE form where we announce FOAs. There may be some forms in there or some different stuff that can help you with your SAM registration, but it's not part of this prize at all. So it won't have any impact on you there. We have some questions about multiple proposals. Let's see, if two unrelated teams submit proposals for the same community, will both submissions be considered? So first of all, if you're eligible, you will be considered. That's number one. Eligibility mainly being that you're benefiting a rural or remote area of 10,000 or less. So if you're eligible, you will be considered. If they are very similar or duplicative, then we may reach out for some clarification. But the main question here is eligibility. We would consider any eligible applicant. If several communities are applying together, do they have to be closely geographically located? No. We don't have geographic limitations on partnerships. And I think that you're referring to a partnership. If you're not, correct me and we'll address that. Going next, given Logan asked if the funding, I think that's funding partners. Let me read this for a second. Is one of the two most difficult aspects are there any specific dates for the virtual, for the power connectors? Okay, I think Amanda or Jenny, we have a few questions on the power connectors, and there is some others that are down below that ask, how do we sign up for partners, and how do we find partners, and how do we connect with partners? Would one of you like to speak a little bit about our matchmaking and in relation to the links we have on the page down below? Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. So Logan, in response to the question that you're asking for the virtual networking events, we are setting those up, and you will have access to those both on the upcoming webinars tab and then also in this platform, or this set of slides here. So we're going to share that and then an update to the HeroX page that includes those access links in the next day or so. You will be able to attend the first networking event. I believe Tom said that was on March 30th, and then the second networking event is on April 13th. Those will both be available to you, and then we'll also have other follow-on community-focused events and other networking opportunities where you can engage with other competitors on the forum directly. If that does not meet your need here and you're not able to define the partner that you're looking for, I mean, we'd certainly encourage you to reach out to other organizations that are within the HeroX community, because that is the primary source of other organizations available. I mean, there are other platforms that the Power Connectors have provided, and those links will be available on HeroX as well. So that's the Empower Innovation platform that Tom had mentioned, and CEBN also has a very similar platform where you're able to see upcoming events and upcoming engagement opportunities too. So I'd encourage you to take advantage of both of those components. And then I know that you said there were a couple of other questions here on the Power Connectors. So let me see if I can find, is the role of a power connector to match partners? So one of the potential roles of a power connector is to match partners here. So if you are not able to find an organization, I'd encourage you to reach out to the power connectors, and then also, as I just mentioned, take advantage of the availability of those on the forum. Let me see if I can find any others that are relevant to this, but Kuka, if you can point any out to me, that would be helpful. There's just quite a few questions in this list, so I want to make sure I don't miss any.
Okay, great. Yeah, I think you got those two that I saw, and then we might just ask you to chime in on any furthers that jump in as we go down. Thank you for that, Jenny.
Yeah.
Barry, you have the next question. I'm not sure if I think that was just a follow-up. So if there's any other further question on there, then let us know. But welcome, and good to see you. Thanks for the comments there. separate application for a number of different rural communities. You know, we have some very specific wording in the rules document, and we'll make sure the rules document is available on our web links down below. If you don't already have them, please do take a look at that. We don't discourage applications with distinctly different activities. We welcome all eligible applicants. You can reference the rules document. We have about a paragraph, 2 or 3 sentences, and it says very specifically what we're thinking there. But as long as you're genuinely proposing some kind of concept that benefits rural and remote areas of the United States, then we will gladly entertain it under the eligibility. We have, what energy disadvantages have you found? Wow, that's a really good question. And it's really diverse. There is no single answer, town to town, region to region, state to state. It's very different activities. But what we have found is when you start to kind of consolidate the barriers and challenges that people over the nation have shared with us, we have found that a lot of early stage moving into kind of a project development, that there's a lot of challenges universally on forming really effective partnerships, whether that be with your governments, whether that be with your utilities, whether that be with your various communities, and then also securing funding for a various number of reasons. Different rural and remote areas have very different fiscal attributes, but a universal message of difficulty securing funding. And so that's why we came up with partner and funding tracks for this prize. And we're really excited to hear what you, the communities, share with us on some proposals. So we look forward to hearing more about that. Existing partnerships will be given more weight. Jenny or Amanda, I might ask you to come on here. I don't think we use that word. I think we welcome existing partnerships and we welcome proposals for new partnerships. Given more weight, I'm not sure that we use that phrase in the rules document. What do you think, Jenny?
No, I entirely agree with you. Our intention in the way that we structured the evaluation criteria is that we are encouraging you to submit leveraging the existing partnerships that you have or considering new partnerships. We're not intending to provide more weight to either scenario, but just leaving the option open that we will consider both scenarios.
And that next one, Jenny, is another question on how can we participate in the partner finance track? Some examples. I guess we have a lot of examples in the rules document. I don't know if we want to pull some of those up, or on a prior slide, I think we had some other examples that Amanda gave earlier.
Yeah,
but
we
want to share 2 things with you on this. Number one is we are technology neutral. Our goal is clean energy, so you can address that in a number of ways, but we are technology neutral. And we give examples solely as brainstorming or just to get the juices flowing. We find that the examples and the proposals that we get from the communities are much better than any just blanket concepts we give. But given that, this slide gives some good information. Jenny, do you want to share some of that?
Well, this is, Jason did review these a little bit earlier as well when we were talking about the finance track. So Jason, is there anything you wanted to add to this? And then I'll switch back to the slide for Jenny too.
No, I would just say that we envision the finance track probably being more of an institutional type applicant, or maybe a preponderance of institutional type applicants. And by that, I mean, maybe it's a rural electric co-op looking to launch a community solar program. Again, it could be a community-based CDFI or community lending organization looking to move into the clean energy space. It could be a green bank, as I mentioned, a utility. And so there's certainly, I think the question was, how can an individual participate in the finance track? it may be that a motivated individual can reach out to one of those institutions and kind of brainstorm an idea, whether that's with your rural utility or your local credit union or your local government, and in a sense develop or co-develop a proposal. But given that we are shooting for kind of additional capital and lending capabilities and investment in rural and remote communities, it's probably more likely that at least in this finance track, we'll see it have some sort of established institution as one of the primary partners in the finance track proposal. Getting?
Yeah, and then for the partner track, I think we could envision a wide variety of potential applicants. So these could be individuals located in rural and remote communities who want to generate some project activity in their backyards. This could be renewable developers, utilities, could be land grant institutions, any sort of community-based organization. Those are the types of organizations that we envision applying for the partner track, and really looking at folks who are interested in partnering with other individuals or organizations, recognizing that in order to bring any of these projects to fruition, deep partnerships are required. And so trying to leave the door open to applicants to define what partnerships they need in order to bring their projects to fruition.
Thank you for that, Jenny. That's and Jason as well. That's some great information. We do have only a few more minutes, but I am going to go ahead and going to do the rapid round here on questions. Okay, I'm going to try and scroll pretty quick, and I think what we don't get, we will try and type an answer, and then also on our websites we have FAQs, some Q&A as well. So anything that we don't address fully, we'll try and get there. And do note that the email address is the first there on the link, and if we didn't satisfy your answers there, well, we'd be happy to speak to you. And right before I do kind of do a rapid fire on questions, I just want to, for any of you that are going to drop right in a couple minutes, we want to thank you for participating in the webinar. We are very excited about your participation in the prize, and we look forward to some of your proposals. All right, community solar, whether or not you apply to finance or partner track is entirely up to you. Please do read the rules document. If you have a question about those different tracks, once you read the rules document, then let us know. And whether or not you apply to one or the other is up to you. Can the support partners aid in or help develop the community benefits and Justice 40 information? Yeah, there should be a partnership entirely. So we would expect to see, we were looking at partnerships with community. We're looking at benefits for the community in both partnerships. So we would expect to see some type of partnership. How that's formalized is a various number of ways. The register button, we'll check that on HeroX and make sure that the register button is working. Thomas, if you just make a note of that. Won't accept, sorry, it jumped here. Won't accept and review multiple applications. So we're trying, I think the answer there is duplicating. We don't want to see one individual applicant duplicate, but if they're distinctly separate, then go ahead. Power connectors, I think we answered that on HeroX. If you have any questions, check the chat for answered questions. Local energy or monopolies, how can we overcome this? Now, that's there might be some ideas in the partnership. Those proposals would probably come from you, but what we would probably encourage is, in one way or another, finding ways to partnership with those utilities, if that's what we're referring to. And then maybe realizing energy benefits for those rural communities through the utilities. That would be a great partnership idea in there. If you have more questions on that, send us a link. But one thing I have to say is we do have to follow the law. And if utilities are regulated, we have to stay within those regulations and laws. Amplify, we're having a lot of questions on submissions per track. So Jenny and Amanda, I'll ask that maybe we just make sure we address that in the Q&A. We have a really good paragraph for that in the rules document. Jenna, you can cut me off whenever you need to. I'm going to try and get through a few more questions. If our community qualifies under the rules, can we enter both for the same community? I think I'm going to ask, we're going to have to check on that. I don't know the rules of putting, it seems like you wouldn't put the same application for multiple prizes is what that's saying, but I'll ask that we put that on a Q&A just for clarity. But participating in one prize in and of itself does not exclude you from participating in this prize, as long as they were distinctly different projects, I would say. We do have in the rules document, it says how many. We have that exact table in the rules document. I don't know that I can give you a verbatim right off the top of my head, but it's a table that says how many are awarded in part the different phases and different tracks. Toby asked, yeah, I'm happy to hear more about that, Toby, but we're looking for new ideas on how to create financing for projects in rural areas. So if you have some, we'd love to hear about it. Besides clean access from the supply side, except demand side, I think on the demand side, that would be usages. And if usages reduced energy demand that fit into that, we would not be opposed to that. It's not only energy generation, I guess, would be the answer. There's other ideas than energy generation that we'd be willing to accept. I'm gonna just a couple more here and I'll hand it back to Thomas or Jenna. Please take a look on the Q&A. We have a lot of Q&A on eligibility and census designated places. If you have additional questions, send us an email on how to use the information that we provided. But we will have to identify a city, town, unincorporated area that is 10,000 or less. I think that covered most of it. There's things about for-profit and nonprofit that would not affect your eligibility if the benefits were going to a rural community of 10,000 or less. And I think that hit it. Anything else that I didn't cover, we will try and cover in the Q&A. And again, we have a opportunity for you to ask more questions in the email. And thank you so much for your participation. A couple minutes over there, but I wanted to get as many questions as we could. And then Jenny, do you want to close us out?
I was just going to say that any questions that we didn't get to here, we will certainly provide written responses on the form. So please look out for all of those responses to the questions. We know that we weren't going to get to everything in this session today, but appreciate all your time and you submitting these questions to make sure we can get everything answered. So thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.